Hello everybody, this is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is May 1st, International Scrapbooking Day, and I thought this would be a great day to get caught up on some of the videos that I've been wanting to share with you. For this layout, I'm using the April My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kits. So I started off with this beautiful piece of paper. This is from the 49 and Market Irrevocable Beauty collection. I just love this paper. I didn't think it needed a lot of mixed media. I decided I was just going to put some white gesso in the background, just in the areas around where my photo and the larger elements are going to be. So I started off by mounting my photo on some white cardstock, and then I use a piece of purplish cardstock behind it. It's kind of like a reddish purple. And now I'm just using my fingers to spread out some of the gesso. The gesso just makes a light halo around the layout. Right now, the gesso is still wet, so you can kind of see where the swirls are that I made with my fingers in applying the gesso, but once it dries, all of that will fade away and it'll just look like a little bit of a lighter area around the major parts of the layout. So I don't really have anything planned for this layout. I know that I want my photo to be off to the right, and I'm thinking that I'm going to have a number of my elements on the right-hand side of the page just because I'm going to position them so that they don't cover up those background images. I wanted to add a little bit of gold around the outside of the photo to draw some attention to the photo. And so I'm using this piece of paper. This is a pattern paper from the collection. I had planned on using it as is, but then I changed my mind and decided to use some gold embossing powder. This is a brushed gold embossing powder. And I'm going to just emboss around the outside. You can see I just went around the edge where it will show with the photo layered on top of it, just the edges are going to show. So now I'm embossing the edges, and I always emboss twice. The first time it looks really pretty and really sparkly, but the second time the coverage is a little bit better, and I just like that look. So I always emboss twice. So now I'm going to be layering my photo and the mats that I have already cut out on top of the gold embossed paper. And then at the very last second, I remembered that I wanted to ink the edges with some Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in Wilted Violet. And off camera, I cut out these large scallops. I use an EK Success punch. It's an old punch that I have in my stash. I don't know if anyone's making border punches anymore, but this is a favorite in my stash. I also use the Distress Oxide to ink the edges of these large scallops, and I also use it on the surface of them a little bit as well. And then once I ink all the edges, I layer them on top of each other, and here I'm using some of this fun foam or adhesive foam to pop up the lighter color purple scallop on top of the darker color. There was some beautiful chipboard in the kit, so I put one piece over to the right-hand side. I end up using some more of the chipboard as well. And the embellishments that you see are from the Prima collection called Watercolor Floral. And here I'm using die cuts from both of the sets of die cuts that we got this month in the kit. One of them was just kind of general images, and then the other was an entire set of florals. So I'm using some from each, and right now I'm just kind of figuring out where I want everything to go on the layout. The watercolor floral collection goes so well with this 49 and Market paper. I wish I was better at coordinating different collections like that, but they were in the kit together, so everything in the kits always coordinates. So I liked this combination. Now I'm working on a cluster that is going to be in the upper left-hand corner. I'm starting with a little banner that's going to serve as my title. It says, "You have what it takes." I just fussy cut a little bit of the white border off of the die cut. I wanted there to be a white border, but I just wanted it to be a little bit thinner. So I'm putting some ATG adhesive on the back of the foam that I used to pop it up a little bit. And now I'm going back with the die cuts, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm just cutting out a little bit of the white from the die cuts. There was just a little bit more than I wanted. But I like the way the white border works on this page. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. On this page, I think it gives a nice separation from the background. I love the loose kind of hanging look of those florals, and I love the way each one of those die cuts is a slightly different color of purple, different, shade of purple. So I was happy with the way that cluster was looking. And now I'm going back to some of the other elements on the page, and again, I'm just reducing that white border on the little birdhouse there, and you can see that I'm using a dauber and I'm inking the edges of those two die cuts. I don't ink the edges of all the die cuts, which is unusual for me because I usually ink the edges of everything or nothing. But as I was saying before, the white edge just kind of provides a nice separation in some of the areas. So I decided that for the florals, I was just going to leave the florals with the white edge, and then I would ink some of the others. I popped the birdhouse up on some of the adhesive foam, and I like to alternate between having elements that are near each other popped up on foam and laying flat on the page. The popped up die cuts provide a nice place for other images to be tucked behind them. And I feel like it adds just a little bit of interest and variety to the layout when a technique is done to some things, but not all of them. Now I'm attaching down some of these little flowers, and there were a number of these flowers that were the same darker purple. It was a little bit darker than the other purples, so I am going to try to spread those darker purples around the layout. I'm continuing to work on that larger cluster that's to the left of the photo. I'm adding in a number of die cuts, just trying to fill in all the little areas. Although I will go back in with some of the paper flowers you see off to the left. And I'm now keeping all of my flowers in that cute little container that's off to the left with the 3 sections in it. When I saw that, I thought that would be perfect because we get 3 different packs of flowers in the kit every month. So I thought, oh, that's perfect. I can put 1 set of flowers in each of the little areas. Of course, I didn't keep them organized the way I had planned to, but I do find it handy for grabbing flowers or other embellishments. There's another die cut that I really liked. It's an arrow and it has flowers on it. And once again, I'm just trimming down the white border a little bit. I was thinking about putting it on top of the photo, but then I decided that I didn't really like it up there. I thought it looked a lot better on the bottom. I'm also going to be adding some photo corners to the photo. I put 1 in each corner. I use an EK Success scalloped photo corner punch, and I use that on most of my layouts, not all of them. And now I'm adding some of those flowers. I had taken a couple of flowers and I added a really dark purple. I used the Wilted Violet Distress Oxide, and it turned out that it was just too dark of a color to use. So I was able to just, believe it or not, run them under some water and the color came off, and I let them dry and I used them on another layout. So I was pretty happy about that experiment gone wrong. It didn't go too wrong. I was still able to salvage the flowers. So now I just felt like it looked a little empty to the top and to the left of the photo. So I'm using the stencil that I made using a cut file, and I'm just adding a few little flowers. It just adds a little something to the background. And I do end up putting something on top of the photo, but the flowers to the left of the photo are still visible in the final layout. And I'm really struggling with how to get these flowers down there. This is definitely not the ideal time to be adding modeling paste to your background. I do add modeling paste that's mixed with white paint just to make sure that the modeling paste will be white. And I mix those two off camera. I use about equal amounts of both, maybe a little bit more modeling paste than paint. And then off camera, I used my heat tool to dry the modeling paste so I could continue on with the layout without worrying that I was going to be smushing those flowers. Now I'm going to emboss some of the chipboard. You had seen earlier that I had that long rectangular piece off to the right-hand side of the photo, and then I'm using that other piece that you see to the right. That's going to be used above the photo. So first I'm using an embossing pad, that very old ratty embossing pad, and it's funny, I bought a new one, but then I thought, well, this other one still works, so I should keep using that. But I'm not sure why I bought a new one then, because the whole idea was that it was old and not very pretty, but you know, it does work. So I guess I'll continue to use that until it doesn't work anymore, even though it's not very pretty. So I put some white embossing powder, and then I added some lavender embossing powder too. And you can see there I'm going back in with the lavender. I put more than one coat of lavender on there. And I was really happy that I had this color lavender in my stash. I don't have a ton of embossing powders. I've been using embossing powders more lately than I ever have, but I just happen to have this color. The lavender embossing powder, that is from Michaels, that's Recollections brand, and then the white embossing powder was Martha Stewart. So that's where I'm going to put those two pieces of chipboard, but I didn't think that I wanted to have just two pieces of chipboard on the layout. I thought that it would be unbalanced, so I'm going to be looking at the last piece of chipboard to see what I can use from that to put elsewhere on the layout so that it will look a little more balanced. But I'm using some heavy duty gel medium, and I'm just coating the back of each of the pieces of chipboard. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want the gel medium to go through the chipboard and then be visible, you know, in lumps on the other side that we'll be seeing. Since I had the heavy duty gel medium handy, I thought that I would grab one of my really old funky looking brushes and attach down the flowers. I was being very brave because normally I wait till the very end to attach those down, but I felt pretty good about where they were and what sizes they were, although sometimes that doesn't really matter. I'll change my mind anyway. But in this case, I was brave and I didn't look back, and I was happy with where the flowers were placed. Now I'm adding some pearls. I have to get some more of these really teeny tiny little pearls. I'm guessing they're probably like 3mm pearls. I love those, and I think that they're a nice little addition to, for example, this chipboard. It's a very, very fine detailed chipboard, but just to add a little something extra to it, I feel like these little teeny tiny pearls are perfect. I continue to add those tiny pearls until I feel happy with the amount of pearls that are on there. Since those pieces of chipboard that I already have on the layout are so large, I didn't think that I would be happy with the balance of the layout if I didn't add some more chipboard. So there aren't many places to add chipboard, so I took the chipboard piece that was left, and there were some hearts kind of within the chipboard, and I just cut out the two heart shapes. One side on each of those hearts is a little flat, but I'm going to position the hearts so that you can't see the flat side. And I end up using the rest of that chipboard on another layout. So I got a lot of use out of this chipboard. And I do the same thing to that chipboard that I did to the other two pieces. I emboss it in white, and then I also add some lavender, and then I attach those down to the layout. Then I decided that I wanted to add a pearl to those flowers that I made using the modeling paste and the stencil. And I had used up all of my smallest pearls on the chipboard, so now I'm taking the pearls off the chipboard because those are super, super tiny, and I'm using them on the flowers, and then I'm going to go back in with a slightly larger pearl and use that on the chipboard. I had ordered more pearls. I ordered them from an Etsy shop, but it turned out when I got them that they weren't really a white color. They were more of like the darkest natural pearl color, and they just didn't go with the rest of the pearls. So now I have to see if I could find another place that has this white color pearl in a really small size. And I'm adding the pearls as well to the two hearts because I want all the chipboard to have all the same elements. And I'm also adding some glue to some of these pearls. Some of them don't have as much adhesive on them as I would like, or they don't have any adhesive at all. Sometimes the adhesive stays on the backing when I pull them up, so I just add some glue. And now I'm adding some florals. These were embossed with the same color that I used around the photo. It's a brushed gold color. So I'm just trimming those down and sticking them in among the florals and the other embellishments. And I just love these florals. I use this particular dye on the majority of my layouts. I wish I could tell you where you could get it. I purchased it on eBay a very long time ago. And I don't know if it's a particular manufacturer or if it's one of those non-branded dyes, but it's really handy because it just adds a little bit of something that's very thin and it's not overpowering. So I'm tucking those in all around the layout. You can see that I used all of them, or at least the majority of all of them. I do cut a lot of them so that they're a little smaller so that they'll fit into some areas that I don't want a large floral in. And now I'm using my little sponge and some heavy white gesso, and I'm just patting that around the page, and I pat it on the embellishments and on the flowers, and also just a little bit on the pattern paper as well. And this just kind of brightens everything up and pulls everything together. And I try to be very light-handed with the white gesso. I just want to pat it around the layout. I don't want any splotches. I just want to lightly touch the sponge to all the different areas on the layout. And I found a little spot where I wanted to add another floral. I had one more hiding off to the left there. For the most part, I'm keeping the application of the white gesso on the large and that small cluster. I'm not branching out into new areas because I want to kind of brighten up the clusters that are there with the white and bring all those elements that are already there together. So now I'm using some white splatters on the background, which I just love. And I covered up my photo with a little piece of plastic that I just keep handy right in my desk drawer, and I just pull that out when I'm ready to apply splatters. And this is just watered down white acrylic paint. And that was the last touch on the layout. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Happy International Scrapbooking Day. I hope that you're able to do something crafty today. I hope if you like this video, you'll give it a thumbs up. And I'm going to put the link in the description box to the My Creative Scrapbook website where you can check out all of their beautiful kits. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.